Joining me now is Oregon Democratic Congresswoman Val Hoyle. Congressman Hoyle, thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Well, it's great to have you, and I do want to start by talking about what's happening out in California, those devastating fires. Given everything that we have seen today from President-elect Trump, are you confident that disaster relief can get passed through this Congress and ultimately get his signature?
I certainly hope so. Look, in Oregon, we've had to deal with wildfires, ever increasingly dangerous wildfires. In the 2020 fires in Oregon, where we had, similar really strong winds, I was evacuated, and every year since we've had to figure out how to deal with these wildfires. As climate change gets more extreme, we're dealing with drier conditions, and then combined with the Santa Ana winds, it's very hard to start these fires once they stop. I know that presidents from both parties have put politics aside when sending disaster aid. I hope that Congress can pass something through and that President Trump will remember that he's the president for the entire country and send disaster relief. These are things, whether it's transportation, infrastructure, disaster relief, that generally are bipartisan, because regardless of party, this is the type of action that people agree that government should be responsible for.
All right. Well, we will watch and see what happens there. I do want to turn to the Lake and Riley Act. You voted yes after voting no on it in the last Congress. Some folks may see that as having to do with November's election results. Why did you change your vote, Congresswoman?
So I voted no because I, worked very closely with my counties. I represent a lot of rural communities and work very closely with law enforcement. And what they were saying is that they felt like this bill was an unfunded mandate. We're already reducing jail beds, and we're having to lay off our deputy sheriffs. My county is the size, just my one county, and I represent 6, is the size of the state of Connecticut. And we have 2, maybe 3 deputy sheriffs on at the same time. What they said was, if we have to pick up every single person who has shoplifted, committed, nonviolent crimes, and then wait for Homeland Security or ICE to come pick these people up to do the job of the federal government without funding, that really limits their ability to keep, our communities safe. Now, what I did do was listen to my constituents who really wanted to know. They felt like this bill said that there should be equal treatment under the law for citizens, for non-citizens. And I know that this bill will go to the Senate, and I am hopeful that they will make the changes needed so that this policy can be carried out. The law already exists that if someone commits a violent crime and they are undocumented, that they will serve their time and then be deported. So we already have that protection. I do feel like this poor young woman's death has been politicized for reasons that don't have anything to do with protecting our communities, but rather for political purposes. And I did vote yes because I'll always listen to my constituents, and I'm working with my senators to see if they can address the concerns that law enforcement and my counties have.
You take me to my next question, which is how Democrats are planning to approach these next 4 years. And your colleague, Democratic and Progressive Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, had something really interesting to say. She says the reason why I think oftentimes Democrats occasionally lose elections is because we're too reflexively anti-Republican, and that we don't lean into an ambitious vision for working class Americans strongly enough. Do you agree with that assessment, Congresswoman, and do you put that at the root of why Democrats did lose across the board in 2024?
Yes, I agree 100%. I mean, the bottom line is if we look at where we lost elections, I'm in one of the few purple districts in the country because of extreme gerrymandering across the country. We have very few districts where you can't win by just Republicans or just Democrats. I mean, 42% of my voters aren't Democrat or Republican. So I work with people from both sides. I passed 5 bills that got signed into law by the president. Every single one was bipartisan. I've only served in the minority in Congress, and the things I work on: transportation, infrastructure, wildfire resilience, ensuring that our wildland firefighters get paid. All of those things are bipartisan, and I will continue to work on those things. However, if we look at how we performed in every swing state, union members outperformed non-union members in every single demographic in terms of voting for Kamala Harris, because people trust their unions to speak to working people. As we've seen the divide of Democrats have more college-educated supporters versus non-college-educated supporters. When I talk to people in the conservative rural parts of my district, they feel like Democrats are talking down to them, like they want to do things out of some sense of noble obligation, when really what people want is an opportunity to have that path to the middle class, like they used to have for us, whether it's the Rust Belt or for us with the timber industry. And I think we need to do a better job.
So let me ask you about your plan specifically. You joined the Department of Government Efficiency Caucus, or DOGE. That committee that bears the same name will be led by Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. They are promising, they are aiming to cut federal spending. President-elect Trump, in my interview with me, told me that entitlements are off the table. He doesn't want them touched. But is that realistic? Will you be able to find cuts without touching entitlements, Congresswoman?
Absolutely. Anyone that thinks that we can't have government efficiency or we don't need government efficiency, and I think this is where, as Democrats, we have to be responsible. I came here to be a good steward of taxpayer dollars. That means making sure that dollars come back and serve our taxpayers, you know, in the best way possible, in the most efficient way possible. If we look at the Department of Defense, which we just gave another $10 billion to, they just failed their 7th audit, right? Almost 50% of the money at the Department of Defense goes to contractors who consistently overcharge with no oversight and no accountability. We can save a lot of money there. With Medicare Advantage, right? We need to look at the places where we can save money while still delivering for the American people. I joined the DOGE Caucus, which is different than the committee, which is chaired by Marjorie Taylor Greene. In my experience, in the 2 years I've been here, I haven't seen her work in a bipartisan way or an authentic way to get things done. She politicizes everything. I'm not on that committee. Vivek Ramaswamy, Elon Musk, they're advisors to the president. They're not in government. The caucus is a group of Democrats and Republicans, mostly Republicans, who are coming together to find savings. Now, the other thing that we do when we're in the room, and some progressive groups said we shouldn't be in the room. I don't understand that. We need to say that when they say they want to cut things, exactly what's going to happen. You want to cut Social Security? I have more Social Security recipients in my district than 87% of the districts in the country, and President Trump said he would not cut Social Security or Medicare or the VA. So we need to deliver services efficiently and also call out when they are saying things that actually aren't going to save money, but rather are just going to privatize our government services. And we need to be in the room to do that, and that's why I joined the caucus.
Finally, Congressman, let me just ask you, President Biden granted an interview to USA Today. He was asked if he believes he would have won November's election had he stayed in the race. Here's a portion of what he had to say. He says, quote, "It's presumptuous to say that, but I think yes," Biden said, adding he based that view on polling he had reviewed. Do you agree with President Biden? Do you think he could have won had he stayed in the race?
You know, I'm in a purple seat, and I know that President Biden would have won my district. So, I wasn't paying attention to the other districts. Here's what I know. The kind of message that Joe Biden had and what Joe Biden has delivered, which is bringing jobs back to bringing jobs back to the United States, expanding the economy from the middle out, really working for working people and strengthening unions. That's a message that carries in my district. So I know he would have won my district. With the amount of money that you had Elon Musk and other billionaires spending on disinformation, we're in a post-truth reality, so it's very hard to say.
All right, Congresswoman Val Hoyle, please come back again soon. Thanks so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.